Hello, I'm Mr. Bad at Card Games, and today I'm going to be showing you budget gren maju base. So to start it off, of course, the first card you need in gren maju is gren maju. Now, this card, in the budget variant, it's one of your only win conditions. You'll win most of your games from this. You'll win the others of your extra deck monsters, but this is obviously a need. You have to have the set free. Next up, we have the all-star of gren maju. We have Gizmek. Gizmek is really strong. It's level 8, which goes well with the XCs. And also it can special summon itself from your hand in your opponent's turn or from the graveyard. So what you can do is, if you have it in your starting hand, you can summon it to your field in your opponent's end phase from your hand, and then just pop one of their monsters. Now next we have 2 Eater of Millions. Now a lot of decks play this at free copies, but you don't want to see it. Like, if you see 3 Eater of Millions in a game, it kind of becomes a bit of a pain. 2 is pretty good because you can pretty much wipe your opponent's board with 2 of them, but otherwise it can be a pain. Next up, we have the dangers. Now, most decks probably can't afford free Bigfoot and free Thunderbird, so you can get as many of these as you can, but instead, here's some okay replacements. We have free Ogopogo. Yep, Ogopogo. It's arguably one of the worst danger monsters in the game, but it's rank 8, which means it's good. And when you send it to the graveyard, you'll never activate its effect, send a card, because that's kind of useless. And then finally, to complete it all off, we've got the one Jackalope, just generic, probably the strongest danger monster in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now onto the hand traps. We have 2 Ash and 1 Draw. Draw right now is arguably one of the best hand traps. Now you can swap these out for any hand traps, just like Artifact Lancier is also very strong. We also play 2 Gamma and 1 Driver. A lot of decks will play 3 Gammas, but I've found that sometimes it's easier to only find 2, and also Gamma also will often brick, and so will Driver. So I prefer to play it at 2, but as I said, with those, you can play them at whatever you want. Now, also in every generic going second deck, you obviously have to have Pankratops. It's just a given. Every going second deck plays this card because it's just so good. Next up, we've got our Golden Castle card. So we've obviously got 2 Hextrude. A lot of decks will play this at 3. A lot of decks will play it at 2. I've got it at 2. This card, it's annoying to find, but it's not too expensive. Next, 2 Glyph for the Golden Castles. Now, Glyph, it's a good card. Hextrude is just better. And Glyph isn't as good as Hextrude. I see decks play him at 1, decks play him at 3. So I've just put him at 2 to have the middle ground. And then, of course, you have to play Golden Castle. A lot of decks will play 3. I've only grabbed 2 for now. But if I grab another Hextrude, I'd probably play it at 3. Next up, of course, we have the arguably best spell card in gren maju, Pot of Desires. It's literally just beef up gren maju and draw 2 cards. unless if your opponent has Ash. Then you're onto the Saki one. So you have Super Volley, because it's generically good. It outs a lot of the most powerful cards in the game right now. And it outs stuff like Dragoon and Zeus, I believe. You have Harpy's Feather Duster, because you don't like back row. Now, those are probably the two Saki one-offs you have to play. Now, the other ones, you can swap them out. You could play, I guess, Raigeki if you wanted. You could play Twin Twisters, Cosmic Cyclones instead. But I've got Monster Reborn, Called by the Grave, which is really strong. That's another pretty much necessary. And Mind Control. Called by the Grave can grab you a Grand Maju. It can save you from a lot of scenarios. I mean, Monster Reborn can. Called by the Grave, it's just generically good. And same with Mind Control. And that's all for the spells. Now onto the traps. Now, I think every deck that plays traps has some Solemn cards. Now you can play this as Judgment. You can play this as pretty much any other card. I put it as Strike because, in my opinion, that's the strongest. And then, because Imperm is too expensive, we have Warning Point, because it's pretty much Imperm, but slightly worse. And finally, now you can play any card, any free cards for your last free. You could play more hand traps, you could play more dangers, you could play pretty much anything. But because I find it funny, I have free Mirror Force. Now, onto the extra deck. Now, the extra deck is often the most expensive part of most decks. Now, my extra deck, I would guess, cost about $20. We have Omega, because he's a level 8, and that's pretty much the only reason. He's our only synchro we play. We have Topologic Zoroark, because it's a very strong card. We have Relinquish Anima, because once again, it's a very strong card. Normally, it's hard to summon in Gren Maju, because you only play really 3 level 1 monsters, which is either Millions and Droll, or Effect Veiler if you want to play that. Which is why this is optional. You have your Link Haribo. Now, I'd see, in my opinion, you could swap the Link Haribo out for maybe like a Nightmare Unicorn, but you don't have to. And for the last Link monster you play, once again, because you don't like back row, you play Nightmare Phoenix. Now, onto the XCs. So every XC's Gren Maju deck has to play this card. This is probably the most expensive extra deck card. Gren Maju needs it, though. What you'll do is you'll normally summon number 100. Now, I've got a number 100 coming in the mail. I don't have it yet. So I got a Codebreaker Virus Swordman to replace it. What you do, you activate that, summon it, and target maybe this card, equip it, you have a 9k beater to attack with. Or, the other option is you summon either one of these, equip the other to it, and then you either have a big spell negator or a big monster effect negator. Which puts me on to the next XC's monsters, is this, because it negates spells, and this, it negates monster effects from your battle phase and is pretty strong. Now, a lot of Gren Maju decks don't actually play this, but I do, because I like it. And I like it so much, I play 2 of them. But the second one is mainly just for putting, like, onto the other one. And then, you also play 2 Dengetsu, because generic good. You can play 1, you can play 2. I played 2 for no real reason. finally, this guy. He's pretty strong. He's like the rank 8 Abyss Dweller, pretty much. And yeah, he is pretty good. He's not the best, but often you'll find going into him if you're against something like Altergeist, which is a deck that hard counters. Now for your final two monsters, you have your super poly targets. Now these are the best two super poly targets in my opinion. Starving Venom and of course my Dragon of the Swamp. This card is just so generic and it works against about 90% of decks. And yeah, that's why that's so good. And Dark is the most common attribute and also the best. So this guy, 2 Dark Monsters, very powerful card, is also a great choice. Now you could take, now how would you upgrade this deck to turn it into a more full power? You'd probably take out some of the links, probably this. You'd add in a few Zeuses. You'd also probably add in Kaijus into your main deck. But this is a very good budget option. Now it's it's a pretty decent deck in my opinion, and for a low price of what I would guess in New Zealand, about in total you'd probably pay around maybe at most $50 for this whole deck. That's probably better than if you put all the money you had into an Ice Barrier deck. But that is budget gren maju. If you want to take this build, I'd like it. It's what I've been playing for now. I mean, you can add in Danger Thunderbird, number 100, more Danger Bigfoot and stuff. It's a deck that can be, gren maju is a deck that can be very cheap or very expensive. That's why I think it's such a popular deck. And also one of the top meta decks. Well, not top, but like tier 2 maybe, deck in New Zealand. Which is currently, I think, one of, if not the only, country running in-person events. And this deck is doing very well. So I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one.